Okay. Thank you, Kanye West, Allah Jesus.
Yes. Well, I was funny story. I was at the airport, and no, I was actually on the plane because I just got back from Orlando, and I was on the plane, and I had downloaded some stuff to watch. You know, I had some Netflix
Porn.
stuff, some porn,
Right.
cake farts,
Oh yeah, of course.
and I didn't really feel like watching anything because the way the flight there was a layover. So the first flight was only like an hour, and then there was a layover, and then the second flight was only like an hour. So it was like you can't really get into something.
Exactly. You can't really get into anything.
So I'm just fucking around on the Dazzle pad, and I'm like, holy shit, there is a plethora of effects here that I don't use. And I was like, dude, for an hour, the people next to me were like, what the fuck is this guy doing? I'm just like hitting the pad, and I'm like, Ms. Dazzle, listen. And she was like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And I'm like, fuck you, you don't care. And then I just keep playing, and I'm like, so yeah, I've been doing a lot of music stuff with the Dazzle pad and the Dazzle Mac. And instruments and stuff, and I'm in a black hole of music.
I've gotten to hear some of your
my
renditions.
cool jams.
Yeah, you should play something. You don't have to play all of it. You should just play a little something.
I don't know. Well, I probably could.
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
Which one?
I don't know.
I'm a big Beatles fan.
Okay.
So, oh no, you know what? Yeah, no, let's do a little
copy
bit
strike in 3.
No, it's
2,
it's not copy strike
1.
because it's
not going to be a copy
my-
strike. It's just going to be an email that I have to send
No,
explaining why it's not a copyright strike.
yeah, it's me performing. I don't know how loud this is going to be.
It's going to probably be really loud, if I had to guess.
So yeah, little
Yeah.
Beatles. I still haven't gotten the drums down quite right. This doesn't have any drums, but
Well, you
I got a little
fuck you, I guess,
Yeah,
for
right.
doing the guitar and the piano
Yeah.
and the mixing and,
the
the
strings
vocals
and the vocals
and
wait
and the background vocals.
and the harmonies.
Yeah. How dare you not know how to use the drum machine
I know. Well,
with a keyboard?
it's
How dare you not be able to
Yeah.
WSAD yourself to fucking Neil Peart?
so yeah. So maybe we'll throw some stuff up on the channel, just like on the weekend, like cool jams with Dazzle.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Jamming with Dazzle.
yeah, and I take requests if anybody has requests.
Sure.
So yeah.
Achy breaky heart.
Don't fucking tempt me, bro. I will make a
Don't
version
break my
so
heart.
good.
Can you make it dubstep?
Yes. Is there any other way?
That's fair.
I figured that's what we were talking about. So yeah. So a lot of musical stuff going on. I'd be more than happy to share it on the channel. That way, I don't have to create a new one just for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to ride your coattails on that.
Hey,
whatever,
it's
whatever you need.
content, baby.
Yeah.
Like
Someday where because sitting right behind you is a full drum set.
fucking full drum set.
Yeah. Someday when I have time and space, maybe we can lay down some funky grooves together, but it's not at the moment.
That's the only thing I'm missing.
I know.
I have the bass. I have the guitars.
75 guitars. And
Yeah, the piano, the
3
the
pianos.
Fucking, yeah, well, it's soon to be 2. I think I'm gonna get rid of one of them.
Like you're just gonna break it.
No, sell it or
Piano?
or give it away or something.
okay.
I don't need one of them. One of them is I have a big Yamaha.
Mm-hmm.
It's an older Yamaha, but in its day, it was a really really hot ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that. I have the Casio, which is more of it's got really good sound samples, but it's lighter, and it's only 76 keys, so it's a lot easier to.
I don't know how many. Or 88?
88.
Is that okay?
So you got 88, 76, 61, and then like the smaller MIDI workstations that are even smaller. But I don't like anything smaller than a 70. I like 76 and 88. 61 doesn't give me enough octaves, not enough range.
That's what I was going to ask you. I guess there couldn't be fewer keys per octave, and they just give you all the octaves. They'd have to cut off octaves, right?
They usually for like because most people don't play the upper range and the lower range. You don't really hear it because the sounds get really muddled and
most speakers and
will
things
go sound like it's cake farting.
Mhm.
So yeah, so the 76 key is nice. Actually, I was thinking of the Roland, just having that and playing that, but I don't need the Roland to play through the MacBook and the GarageBand because I'm using the piano sample in GarageBand. So fucking any keyboard I plug up to it,
Yeah, it's gonna be the exact same.
it could be a $50 keyboard. It's gonna sound just like that.
You could plug in a MIDI interface and then touch 2 wires together for the key sounds, and it'll sound great.
Yeah, it'll sound awesome.
Grand piano,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm gonna start using the Casio as the main. But the drawback is it's the Roland's got the weighted keys and it just feels
sure.
There's so much more emotion in playing. But anyway, enough about the music. We can talk music for hours. I can.
Sure.
I think this week we wanted to go into the medical stuff.
Yeah,
and I wanted
the American healthcare system.
And I wanted to share my Coma story.
Yeah.
So that we can get it on record. And other people can because I think it's very interesting because there's not a whole lot of people that you might come into contact with that have experienced being in a coma.
All I know is you left me hanging on Destiny for like a month because of your fucking coma. Okay, I had to go it alone.
I know.
It was a two man wolf pack.
I know.
And it was.
Well, if I had my choice,
really
I'm pretty sure I would have picked.
And then once you got out of it, you're like, I was in a coma for 3 weeks. I can't use my hands.
I couldn't. Yeah, my hands were like. All
right, I'll let you start.
Michael J. Fox.
Start from the beginning.
For those unawares, I'll give you a little background on my medical issues. I've had asthma and allergies since I was a baby. I got them from my father. He has pretty moderate asthma, but mine is much more severe. It's never been under control by medical standards, even when I was younger. I was in the hospital all the time. There were brief stints where I actually would spend days to weeks in an oxygen tent. Like the Bubble Boy. Because that
would have been. They never offered you a bubble?
No, cool. No. There was no bubble, but I remember playing. I think it was TurboGrafx.
Sure.
I played Bonk.
I remember playing Bonk's Revenge on the first Game Boy. He had a giant forehead.
Yeah,
and he would go around
like just caveman,
just mashing people with his fucking face.
Yeah, the game doesn't make any fucking sense, but
not at all.
It's one of my earlier gaming memories.
Mm-hmm.
I was. I think it was a TurboGrafx. It might have been, I don't think it ever came out on the Sega Master System. I'd have to research it, but it doesn't matter. I know clearly it was Bonk. So. I was always sick, always on medicine, inhaler. Everything induces my asthma, allergies. Like Razzle Cat, will mess up my asthma from time to time, and it's just something I've lived with. Like my normal is somebody's deathbed,
death's door.
Right.
Yeah.
Pulse ox is always really low, and I just deal with it. And I smoked for many years. That clearly did me no favors, but whatever. So this leads up to the story. So
that's my fault.
So the issue was that at the time, I think at that time my health was the poorest. In terms of taking care of myself and giving a shit.
This was like 4 years ago? 5 years ago?
2014.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that was around the time when I didn't care anymore about doing stuff. I was healthy in a sense where I was active. I was a lot more active then than I am now. And all those things, but in terms of drinking and smoking and all those things, I didn't have, not that you could have a healthy balance of those things, but it was a lot more under control. And it is than it was back then, because back then I was drinking fucking 5 days a week. I was smoking about 2 packs a day, just fucking unhealthy. I had a really unhealthy work schedule. I was working a bunch of jobs, a lot of hours. I didn't get a lot of sleep, so everything was out of whack. So, every 6 months or so, I would have a really bad asthma episode, have to go to the hospital, spend a couple of days in the hospital, load me up on steroids, and so forth, usually when the seasonal changes. So this was in December of 2014, first week of December. I just didn't really feel good one day. I called off work. I didn't have health insurance at the time because I was working 2 part-time jobs, but I was still working over 30 hours at each job. It was ridiculous. But anyway, so I didn't have health insurance. So I tried to get by on the bare minimum of medications that I could afford to try to self-medicate to keep me out of the hospital. So that included, spending the $75 on the inhalers, spending the $30 on the nebules of albuterol. Once I got that sickness inside, like I could feel it, seasonal change, my asthma flares up, I'm hitting that nebulizer every 2 hours, 4 hours, taking that inhaler way too much, hopefully to get over the hump and then, not go to the hospital. But at this time, because my health was so poor, it didn't work. I was always in the hospital. So I didn't feel good. First week of December 2014. I was, the person I was with at the time, we're going to call her Fuckface. So Fuckface is,
as we have many times
as is actually basically her real name at this point. Fuckface was with me, and although this story will mostly shine a positive light on this person, but don't let that fool you. So she was a fuckface. So she goes, "Yeah, you don't sound too good." I was like, yeah, I just don't feel good, She's like, maybe we should go to the hospital. I was like, that's not a good idea. Like, I don't feel like being in the hole with more medical debt, for 38 years. No, you should probably go to the hospital. I was like, okay. I was like, let's go. So we go to Silver Cross, and we're there, and immediately the tone was set on how this was going to go. I was in the waiting room for 4 hours. I walked in, said, can't breathe, or not that I can't breathe, but trouble breathing. I'm a terrible asthmatic, and it's progressively getting worse. Okay, we'll get to you, whatever, blah blah blah. I see people walking in. There's one kid who had like a broken pinky. He walked in, sat there for like 20 minutes. They took him back. He walks out 20 minutes later with a splint on his hand, a piece of paper, and he's out the door. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm sitting, we're watching Cooking Network or something, and I feel myself getting worse. So I tell one of the nurses, I'm like, I'm really having trouble breathing, like, and I don't have any medicine with me. So they would take me back to the triage room, give me a breathing treatment, and then push me right back out into the waiting room. And they did that a few times until finally they bring me back and they put me in one of the ER rooms or whatever. Now, the nurse in the ER recognized me from the time I was in the hospital about 4 or 5 months previous. She goes, what are you doing? Why are you back here? I was like, asthma, She was like, well, ask me the questions and how long and everything. And I was like, yeah, I told her. And I was like, yeah, I was out in the waiting room for over 4 hours. I could have fucking died. And they're like, oh yeah, next time you just tell them you have chest pain. They'll take you right back.
Absolutely.
And side note, it works
at 100%
every time,
every single time.
You just have to mention, like, just by by happenstance. Oh, by the way, it's just, I don't know if it's my breathing, but my chest kind of hurts. Okay, boop, in the wheelchair,
yep.
Pull him back.
Yeah, and I've been in the hospital twice. Both times I had to stay overnight, and part of. I mean, I wasn't lying. I knew that it was digestive issues, but my chest did hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You're no medical professional.
No, they take you immediately.
You just point. This hurts.
Mm-hmm.
This area.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the organs and things in that area. I don't know. I'm no doctor.
Exactly.
So
anyway,
so this is the part of the story where most of it was told to me secondhand because I don't remember. They asked me if I wanted the pneumonia vaccine. Now, generally the pneumonia vaccine is reserved for people over like 60. But because I'm an asthmatic and because I've had pneumonia a bajillion times, and it always fucks me up. Pneumonia is like the worst, especially when you're an asthmatic. So they're like, "Do you?" I didn't even know there was a pneumonia vaccine.
I've had pneumonia at least twice. I've had it diagnosed twice. I'm pretty sure I had it more than that, but yeah, I've had it twice.
It's the worst.
Yeah, it's no fun. You cough yourself awake. You cough till you throw up. You can't sleep because you're coughing so much you can't fall asleep. It's the fucking worst.
Yep. And like when you're an asthmatic, especially, just all that fluid and all that shit in your lungs, it's just it. And then the coughing kicks into an asthma attack. That's what used to happen when I would get pneumonia. I would cough myself into an asthma attack. So, I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means, but I personally don't like taking things like the flu shot. I understand you can't get the flu from the flu shot, but you can still feel like garbage. And feeling like garbage with my medical circumstances is never a good thing.
Yeah, it's not somebody like, somebody who doesn't have asthma or pre-existing conditions. It's more like, you're going to feel like garbage for a couple of days, but then you're going to be fine for, you're not going to get the flu, right?
We hope.
For you, it's like you're going to feel like garbage, but that could trigger your existing life-threatening illness that could fuck you up seriously.
At that point, what's worse? What do you do? Do you take chances,
the flu, or
do
you for sure
put yourself in the firing line to get sick?
Right.
So, but they told me, this pneumonia vaccine, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, it might be worth the risk because I know how bad pneumonia is for me. And I'm already in the hospital. So what better place to get this vaccine? So they gave me the vaccine, and I don't remember anything after that, but bits and pieces. Apparently, they admitted me. My vitals tanked. I couldn't.
So wait, they gave you the vaccine and then admitted. They gave you the vaccine, your vitals tanked, and then they admitted you.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
All this happened while I was still in the ER room.
Right.
And then once. Whoops.
Whoa. Hey.
Excuse me.
The mic stand accordion.
Wait. Okay. So once I was in the ER room, they gave it to me. Then I started tanking. My breathing got labored. My pulse ox started dropping. They admitted me. And then they put me on the CPAP or whatever. Now, a CPAP machine, for those that don't know, is a very large ventilation system. It's basically designed to force air into your lungs.
I think I know the CP of CPAP is like constant pressure or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it just pressurizes your system.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the problems when you're an asthmatic is when you have short labored breathing, you're not taking in enough oxygen. So this machine basically forces you to take deeper breaths and more in a more rhythmic fashion instead of shallow or whatever. I've been on one many times, but this particular time I don't remember specifically. I remember a few bits and pieces, but so I was on that. I didn't get better. And then I remember the one memory I have was sitting in a hospital room with fuckface and I think my mother watching Ghost.
What? Okay.
Yep.
What a terrifying fever dream that is.
Just Patrick Swayze and
this is my
Denis.
hell, isn't it? I died.
You know what? Looking back, it might have been some form of purgatory.
Yeah.
And I remember that. That I don't remember anything. So it got so bad. Now, what happened was, I knew I was getting sick apparently, and or I knew I wasn't doing too hot, and I'm very stubborn because I knew that if they intubated me, there was a chance I wouldn't come back. I must have known that at the time. So
why do you say that?
well, because I was intubated 6 months or prior, and they tell you, once you're intubated once, not only are the chances higher for you to be intubated again, but it's a lot more. It's just a lot more dangerous.
Intubated means just sticking a tube into your lungs,
right?
So they bypass your mouth, your throat, your nose, all
right.
that, and they just squirt air directly into your bronchial tubes in your lungs.
Correct. And it's one thing. Well, we'll get there, but I was very I didn't want to do it, and then finally, apparently, my mother came up to me and said, apparently, like I said, I don't remember. She said, if you do not let them intubate you, you will die. So then I guess I finally, well when you put it that way. So apparently
okay.
And then the nurses were like, if you don't get intubated now, it will be too late. And then you will crash and we won't be able to do anything for you. So I said, okay, let's do it. And then they intubated me. So here's the thing about intubation is sometimes when you're intubated, you don't have to be on heavy sedatives, or they'll put you on heavy sedatives and then wean you off and you'll be awake and intubated, right? That is not what they did with me because they put me under, like we spoke on the last show. I was on heavy amounts of propofol, a bunch of other stuff to paralyze me basically and keep me in this machine to breathe for me. First off, the pulmonologist that I had, I wish I knew his name or her name, I don't remember, was garbage. Did not give a shit about me. Would peek his head into the room and say, "Oh, how's he doing? Oh, okay. We'll check tomorrow."
Well, yeah, they did the wallet biopsy and then
right.
Yeah.
So my condition wasn't improving. Generally, they only intubate for so long before they'll trach you,
mm-hmm.
and they'll perform.
And that's cutting a hole in your
trachea,
into your trachea through your throat, and directly putting a tube through your throat into your lungs.
Correct.
Instead of down your mouth, down your throat, they put it through your throat.
Yep. And it was almost a certainty that it was going to happen because I was intubated for I don't know exactly how many days, but it was between 10 and 14 days. And that's too long. So, but by like the 6th or 7th day, the nurses pulled my mother aside and said, you need to request a different doctor and you need to request a transfer to a different hospital. They wanted to transfer me to Northwestern because they have better equipment, for asthmatics, better ventilation systems, because I was on the highest PEEP setting, is what they call it, on the ventilator. There was nothing more that they could do, and I wasn't improving. So I do know that my son's oldest son's grandfather, who is a doctor, was helping because he had connections. He was helping to try to get me transferred to Northwestern, and they were going to, but then they canceled it because they said he won't survive the airlift. We don't have the equipment necessary to lift him to Northwestern, and there's no way that we can take him by ambulance.
Right.
So that was off the table. So the new pulmonologist comes in, tweaked settings. I don't know what he did, but three days later, I'm out of it. I'm out of the coma. And they tried to wean me off the medicine between there once I was stable. And I would get up, like I would try to sit up and rip the shit out of my throat. Like, whatever this is, whatever this tentacle hentai porn shit is, get this out of my fucking body. So they couldn't. Now, one of the weird things about a coma, and one of the most common questions I get is, when you're in a coma, can you hear things? Are you lucid? Were you dreaming? I don't remember any dreams or anything, but I do remember people talking. I do remember being slightly lucid in my head to hear my grandmother and my younger sister and other people talking throughout the here and there.
Mm-hmm. I was there at one point. I met your oldest Dazzle mama.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I was there at the same time she was.
I mean, thanks. I don't remember.
I clipped your toenails.
Did you?
With my teeth.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that explains.
I wanted something to remember you by.
Yeah, just in case that might have been the last time you see me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I got the clippings upstairs.
Good.
But those are mine.
Well, I was gonna say don't get them mixed up with yours because they're probably very similar looking.
Oh yeah.
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 So I came out of it, and here's where shit gets weird.
I was gonna say I heard a story from your cousin about when you initially woke up, like the first time. And I'm not trying to steal your thunder story, but when you woke up the first time, you were convinced that like you were being held against your will somewhere,
100%,
and being like tortured or something. Okay. And you were freaking out and telling them, screaming to call the cops, or they were going to call the cops because you were freaking out or something. And you like locked eyes with your cousin, and he like talked you down, like, no, this is what's going on. Right. Calm down. You're in the hospital. So I just remember hearing that story.
This is that is all true. What initially happened, when I first woke up, the first face I saw was my mother standing over me. And everything in the room was like a weird orangish red hue. Now, I don't know if that was from the
jaundice, maybe.
I think it was a combination of my eyes just being closed for so long and adjusting to everything and still being on or having trace amounts of sedatives and things like that. Mm-hmm. So my brain was firing all kinds of shit and just was trying to make sense of everything. And everything was a reddish, orangish hue. And I'm looking into my mother's eyes, and it looked like there were bugs crawling in her eyes. And she's talking to me, and I'm like, I thought I was dead. I thought I was in some weird place. Nothing made sense. And I remember she asked me, she's like, what are your kids' names? Mm-hmm. And because they were trying to test my brain function.
Sure.
Because they didn't know how it was going to be because I was deprived of oxygen for so long.
Right.
And I said, Dazzle 1, Dazzle 2, or Little Dazzle 1, Little Dazzle 2. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, well, what's the name of Little Dazzle 3? And I said, there is no Little Dazzle 3. Is there? And she was like, okay, So I remember that, and I remember seeing a few of my friends there, and they're like, who's this? And I was like, holy shit. Like I one of them I hadn't seen in years. So we went through that. That was the initial kind of, okay, we still don't know where he's at in terms of complete brain function.
You know who people are. It doesn't mean you can fucking walk.
Exactly. Well, and that's the other thing. There was I had zero mobility. And one of the weirdest things is what is fascinating to me is if you lay in bed for 2 weeks without moving, you basically, like, that's enough time to just destroy your entire body, like muscles, everything. Now, generally when you're in a coma, they do range of motion. A nurse will come in, to make sure you don't get something called drop foot. They'll move your feet and move them around and lift your leg and put it down and, like Kama Sutra without the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't do that with me. My mother actually had to do that. And I'm not saying that contributed. I don't know. But when I came to, I could barely move my arms. I couldn't even sit up in the bed. So my motion was all fucked up. So after all of that happened, I'm in like the critical wing of this hospital. And the placement of this critical wing, there's windows in my room, but they overlook the top of the hospital wing next to me. You can't see anything. You can't see streets. You can't see cars, and it was quiet.
And this hospital also is kind of
in the middle of nowhere, off the expressway.
Right.
So you don't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
The critical wing is where all the really fucking sick people are. So you don't hear babies, patients. You don't hear anything. So I'm looking around and I'm like, this doesn't even look like a real hospital. This looks like a fucking set, like a movie set. Mm. And I'm looking out the window. I'm like, there's nothing out here. This looks like a studio. So then my brain starts going, I'm not in a real hospital. So I start fucking wigging out. And I start saying, I'm being held captive. Why are you people holding me captive? My family's here, and they're like, no, you're not being held captive. You're not well. You're sick. My mother told me, I was like, take me home. I was like, I don't want to be here. She was like, okay, if you can get out of your bed, I'll take you home. And I have never tried so hard in my life to do anything. I was sweating like just bullets, like trying to just flop myself over the fucking bed. I'm like picking myself up.
Didn't say I had to stand.
Yep. And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to make a crash landing. I'm going to break something, but I'm getting the fuck out of here. Couldn't even do it. Had no strength. So cousin Dazzle was there. And he was sitting next to me, and he did this, that what you exactly said. He said, nobody's holding you captive. I wouldn't lie to you. Would I lie to you? And I was like, no. He's like, you're sick. You're going to get better, and then you're going to go home. But you have to stay here. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then my mom asked me, she's like, why would we all want you to be held captive? And I was like, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out, guys. So I actually was so irate and so like yelling and I think a lot of this was some withdrawal stuff going on.
Well, yeah.
I went to the guy, the nurse, and I was like, I want to see a police officer right now. He said, if I bring you a police officer, will you calm down? I said, I mean, it's a good start.
How'd you know he was a police officer?
Well,
or she?
Well, they brought me.
That's it. Shoot me.
I'm gonna need to call in that badge number.
Yeah, how better yet, let me shoot you, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. Then I'll know if you're really a police officer or not.
But they didn't bring me a police officer. They brought me a campus security guard.
Sure.
And I looked at him, and I'm like, who is this Steve Rogers looking motherfucker? That's exactly what I said. I said, you're not a police officer. I was like, I asked for a police officer. Now I'm even more skeptical that this is real. And then the guy was like, I was like, where did you go to school?
I didn't. I'm a fucking security guard.
Well, high school.
Oh, well, yeah.
And he was like, Stag. I was like, okay. I was like, because you don't look like a Sandberg or Andrew type of guy.
Yep.
So after, I don't know, maybe like, and then I thought fuckface was fucking the nurse.
The female or male?
Male.
Oh, that's less fun.
I just thought, for some reason, because they were laughing and giggling and talking. I remember it, and I remember having this rage, and I was like, "What are you guys doing? Where are you going? Why is this?" She's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." Little did I know.
Well, yeah.
So
you were onto something.
Yeah, I was onto something. So after that happened, my apparently I don't remember, but I remember my stepdad started playing music on his phone to see, because anytime I hear music or music's around me, I interact with it in some way or shape or form. And apparently,
like Awakenings,
right,
like that movie,
exactly. So apparently, they put on some song, and
you became fully erect.
I started singing and singing along and bopping my head. This was right a little after talking to people and like coming out of it, and I guess that was I don't remember, but apparently that was a really emotional thing for everybody.
As a side note. So just it's an interesting point about how crazy and how strange the brain is. Mel Blanc got in a horrific car accident at one point and broke damn near every bone in his body, and he was in a coma. And for those of you who don't know who Mel Blanc was, you should, and I shouldn't have to explain it. So he was in a coma, and he broke every bone in his body, and they couldn't get him to come out of the coma. This was in like the 60s or 70s, like they or even earlier.
They were giving him spoonfuls of whiskey to
they
out of the
had
coma.
No idea. No, that was just to stave off the shakes. Yeah, because everybody was an alcoholic back then.
They're putting Winston cigarettes in his mouth and lighting them, being like, I don't know.
Winston Unfiltered. So, at one point, they're trying to get him to come out of the coma. One of the guys, I don't remember who it was, but it was either one of his friends or somebody he worked with, went up to him and just said, "How you doing, Bugs?" And he just snapped out of it in the full Bugs Bunny voice, just said, "Not too good, Doc." And then he like came out of the coma. So it's weird the way the brain works is like audible triggers and shit like that. Mel Blanc is the guy who did
basically all the voices,
all of the cartoon voices. A million years ago, he did Bugs, Daffy, Sylvester, Tweety, fuck all of them.
Yeah, Porky Pig,
all of them. Yeah, all the Warner Brothers,
Elmer Fudd,
or Hanna-Barbera. I think, I don't know. He did all of the very famous cartoon voices. So,
not to be confused with Mel Torme.
Right. Or Marissa Tomei.
Or Marissa Tomei.
Yeah, or Mel Gibson.
Although they all hate Jews.
That is fair. Wow. We just Illuminati. Anyway,
shit.
It's just weird ways that the brain works. Sometimes, audible cues and things like that are like so deeply rooted in your subconscious that like they will snap you out of it.
Yeah, it was. I wish I remember it. I don't really remember it. They tell it to me and I have a vague. One of the things is I don't remember a lot of the specific things, but I remember feeling the feelings. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember. I just, it's so hard to explain. But when people tell me the stories of the things that happened that I don't remember, I can feel it.
Yeah.
Like it incites the feelings because I was there, but I wasn't there.
It's a lot like being hypnotized.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you know what? That's a good way of looking at it. My brain is in a different state. Mm-hmm. I'm still taking in the information.
You're still receptive,
but I just have no memory of it.
Right.
So once that whole phase ended of the security guard, and then at that point I didn't feel like I was being held captive by the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Only by your loved ones.
Hold on. This is good too. In order to calm me down, probably because the night nurse didn't want to fucking deal with me.
Hand jobs.
Oh, that would have been great. No, gave me Ativan.
Okay.
Now, I'd never taken it before, and I'll never take it again. I had a really bad reaction in terms of like just hallucinations. Like I felt like I have to sneeze.
Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. That was a sudden one. Everything at one point, it was very late at night, all the lights are off. Fuckface is sleeping on the couch. And he gave me Ativan, and I didn't know he did. I remember that. He snuckily gave me Ativan.
Snuckily?
Like he put something in my IV very sneakily. And I remember asking him, like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, no, this is just, just whatever, flushing out, whatever. He lied to me. And then all of a sudden, everything looked like it was... Did you ever see James and the Giant Peach?
I've seen parts of it.
Oh, there's a little weird feedback thing going on here.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't care. So, yeah, everything looked like claymation. Oh. Oh. Just start jiggling stuff. That's what I used to do. Okay. Oh. Okay. Oh.
It's your mic.
Oh.
Something to do with your mic.
My mic. Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, fixed. So everything was moving in like a claymation style. The clock on the wall.
Stop motion?
Yes, the vents, everything. And I thought everything was talking and like playing out a play. I don't remember it, but I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So all of this is happening. I didn't sleep at all. Light starts to peek through the fucking window. And fuckface wakes up, and I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but
it's like you woke up in Toontown.
Yeah,
from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I was like, I just had an experience like never before. And then I talked to the nurse, and he said, well, yeah, I gave you Ativan to help you sleep. And I looked him dead in the face. I was like, don't give me any more drugs. I just had weeks of drugs. Right. I want 0 drugs. So that happened. So then the best part, I thought I didn't think I was being held captive by the hospital. I thought I was being held captive because, and this doesn't make any sense, because of an illegal Pygao ring.
I vaguely remember parts of this.
And I think
it's because, oh God, you know what's funny is I didn't think about it till now, but you know what the correction or the correlation is? That was right about the time that
South Park.
Or maybe it was South Park. I'm thinking of Always Sunny, where Frank is running the thing in the basement.
That's true. I think that was along the same time too. But
that's amazing.
There's a South Park episode where there's like a Pygao thing, and the one guy is like says something about fucking American women or something, and for some reason my brain tuned into that South. So I'm like, I went to fuckface. I'm like, I figured it out. She's like, what? I was like, shh, baby girl, shh. I figured it out.
Hush now.
I'm being held here from an illegal Pygao tournament ring. And all they want to do is fuck our American women. I shit you not, dude. And she's like, what? And I thought, I rode that train for about a day until finally, I think all the medicine wore off. Maybe it's that, but that's my gain.
No, it's something in the signal.
Here, please hold. Okay, how about that? Is that better?
It's infinitely better.
Okay. Yeah, I just must not have had the XLR plugged in deep enough.
Podcasting is hard.
Yeah, sometimes, not everything's perfect. So once that wore off, the drugs wore off, and then I was finally like, okay, no, I'm sick. And then they moved me to a different room. So they moved me into a different room, and like a not the critical wing, but like still the ICU. And it overlooked the fucking expressway, and I'm like, oh, civilization. Okay, I am in a hospital. I am here. And then they tried to do. Now here's I just told you this story. This is the best part.
I love it. I love it so much. After such a dreary beginning,
then we have some fun.
I'm so happy.
So I I had zero mobility. Couldn't walk. Couldn't lift my leg, had very low arm strength, and they had to have like I had to do physical therapy. So I'm in the process. This was in the process of transferring me to the ICU room. I was in this like weird holding room from what I remember. And the nurse was like bathing me, but not bathing me in like a sponge bath kind of way. They had these like packages.
A hose, a power washer.
It probably would have been easier if they did
I
that.
imagine.
No,
after 2 weeks of filth.
Yeah, I mean they had these like they're not baby wipes, but they were like baby wipes,
like a butt Swiffer.
Yeah, sure. And they were heated. It was really weird.
Sounds awesome.
But they smelled really weird.
I don't want to wipe my ass with a cold baby wipe.
That's true.
If I had a baby wipe heater.
She was cleaning me off, and I actually had developed prickly heat or whatever it's called. It was like heat rash.
Oh, okay.
From laying down in my sweat and filth for 2 weeks. So my back looked like chicken pox on steroids. It didn't itch. It burned, and it hurt. So they had to gently wash me with these wipes, and the nurse also gave me a suppository.
My favorite.
Yep. So the physical therapists come in, and they start talking to me, and they say, okay, well, we need to start this. We need to get your range of motion up, and we're going to have you do some exercises. So I'm laying there, and there's a guy and a girl. And the girl is literally just about to like grab my leg to like do some strength testing, and just a stream of shit just oozed out from underneath me. And I was super embarrassed about it, and I'm like, oh. Because I couldn't control it.
Yeah, I imagine not.
So, there's just shit everywhere. And the nurse she was one of those nurses that like, if you put an apron and a cigarette in her mouth, she's like, she worked at a diner. Like, she didn't give a shit. Like,
sure.
She's seen worse. She goes, oh, okay, I'll be right there to clean that up. So, I go to the guy and the girl, and I'm like, give me a second. To get this situation cleaned up. So the nurse comes over, and she, cleans everything up and pulls the bedding stuff, the pad thing off, and wipes me down with the warm wipes, and then flips me back over or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. So the guy's like, okay. So he comes over and he grabs my right leg, and he kind of like lifts it maybe 2 inches. just another straight, just puddle of mud. Just pudding skins.
You ever overcooked the sweet potatoes on Thanksgiving?
Yep, that was it, man. And it just, and there was a lot of gas behind it too.
Oh, sure. So
there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, of course.
And
rocket propelled.
I'm gonna assume that's why she gave me the suppository.
Sure.
So the fucking guy and the physical therapist, he was just like, yeah, you know what? We're gonna come back later. And I was like, you know what, buddy? It's probably a good idea.
Probably for the best.
Probably for the best. So she, Doris or whatever the fuck her name was, came over and cleaned me off and then put me back upright. And then I went back to the room. So the negatives obviously was I missed Christmas. I didn't see my kids the entire time. I didn't want them to come see me in the hospital.
Right.
And, I didn't see them for over a month. It couldn't move. I left the hospital barely able to move because I was sick of it. I was done. I was done with being in the hospital.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't spent multiple days in the hospital, and I've never spent, the most I've spent is 3. I've spent 3 days in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and dude, it becomes like fucking
unbearable.
Unbearable.
Every moment that you're awake is fucking unbearable.
Yep.
You have needles in you. You can't move. You can't do anything. You're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't washed. You haven't showered. You haven't, like, it's fucking unbearable. So I can't even imagine after a couple of weeks of that shit.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
And the worst thing was it wasn't all of those things, plus I didn't even have the freedom to just stand up.
Yeah.
Walk around. You know, I was stuck in a bed.
Yeah.
But I never worked so hard during physical therapy.
Oh yeah. Fuck that.
And even the guy, the one guy, after like a week, he's like, I can't even believe you can get up right now. I was like, dude, you don't understand how bad I want to get out of here. I was like, I'll do anything. I got nothing else to do. I will strength train and I'll all day. I don't care. So I'm doing the exercises. I'm doing everything. You know, I'm able to. I had the cane thing. I was able to get up. I was able to move around a little bit with the cane. Not the cane. It was like a walker.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got to the point where I could. And this was a scary moment. I got a little overconfident, and the guy said, "All right, well, you know, do you want to try taking a shower?" I said, "Yes, please." Now, I didn't have an IV. I had a PICC line, and the PICC line goes through your arm. I'm pointing, even though you guys can't see, but Razzle can see.
Upper forearm, or I'm sorry, upper. What is
bicep?
That? Yeah, upper bicep, lower deltoid.
Yeah,
in that area,
and it goes through, and it actually goes into the vein or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a straight line into the bloodstream. Better than like your.
Yeah, it's better than having a needle in you for.
So it was a lot easier to, because that thing's like Fort Knox, man. Like it was taped up and gauzed up and plastic wrapped, and because you don't want that infected. So it was a lot easier to just unhook that and go take a shower. So I get up in the walker and I'm making my way to the shower. And I had like a momentary lapse of balance, and I almost cracked my fucking head on the metal handlebar thing that's in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God I was near the corner of like the shower area, so I literally just like a trust fall. I just like this is happening. I didn't even flail.
Let it go.
I had to make the conscious choice. I was like, I think if I just fall into the wall, I'll be okay. And I did. I literally just all of a sudden lost my balance, just and fell and hit the wall. I was able to take the shower, and then I could hear the nurse in the room, going, "Are you okay? What was that?" I was like, "I'm fine," because I didn't want anybody to think that I had like a setback,
right?
So finally able to barely move. I was discharged. I went into the hospital at 275, 280 pounds. I left the hospital under 220. And then I was actually under that within the next few weeks, because I'm not going to get into the side story, but I developed thrush. I couldn't eat. It's a bacterial infection in your mouth. Everything burned. So I literally didn't eat food for a month and a half.
Well, and then a couple weeks later, you were back in the hospital. Yep. Not even a couple weeks, couple of days.
Because it was about a week or two. I was back in the hospital because once the thrush went away and I was able to eat again, I fucking ate everything. Portillo's, McDonald's, every fucking meal was something grilled, fried, or otherwise non-healthy, and my gallbladder basically shot itself in the head.
Yeah.
So. The reason I tell this story is because I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see, what people go through that, you might not have a perspective on because you don't know anybody. But also, it ties into what we were talking about. I have been there, right? I have lived that. I don't have insurance. I'm just an everyday Joe trying to make ends meet, working 2 jobs to get life, and that hospital bill was like $200,000. That hospital bill. It was outrageous. It was worth more than my parents' house, And I've been there. So if I want to get up and boo-hoo about the healthcare system, I can, because I lived it. And
so fuck you, Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, fuck you, Jimmy Kimmel.
If a 56 minute.
That was a 56-minute fuck you, Jimmy Kimmel. Well, I want people to understand why I have this viewpoint is because you don't get up on a soapbox and preach something to me if you haven't been there, if you haven't lived it. It's not that I don't like the message, right? I get the message that you're trying to send, but the way you're sending it becomes disingenuous when you have no idea, you have no background in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a medical bill that will never be paid.
No,
I'll have that till the day I die.
What's funny is if you no, you won't. It'll get put into collections and it'll get discharged.
7 years.
Yeah. What's funny is it's actually shorter to either file bankruptcy or just never pay it and then have it get taken off your record after a certain amount of time than it would take you to actually pay it. Right. For at a reasonable, pace.
Well, I almost claimed bankruptcy around that time. And I still consider it to this day because I don't even want to get into it.
Well, the good news is you don't have to. We can save a little juice if you like. Or we can squirt all the juice now. I don't care. Give me a weird look.
What are you talking about?
All I was going to say is it's like 58 minutes.
Oh, you're talking about squeezing the juice.
Yeah.
You know what? We'll go into that. We can get into that next time. So I was going to say something and now it escaped me. That's okay. I hope this was an informative and entertaining account of a coma. What's the word I'm looking for? Silver lining of all of this was I made certain changes and I have not had an asthma attack since. I've been close a few times and had difficulties, but even if I get in like a itch in my throat and I have the slightest inconvenience with my asthma, I am at the hospital or at the doctor. So, haven't had an asthma attack since. Basically.
Well, the other thing now is you do now have insurance. So if you do have to go somewhere, they actually see you.
Yeah, they actually give a shit.
And treat you.
I saw a pulmonologist yesterday, real quick. I'll tell that. First time I ever saw a pulmonologist since I was in the hospital for the coma. And a little quacky, but I'm okay with it. I think it's okay to have a good mixture of outside medical expertise as well as board certification stuff. The guy is board certified. He's like obesity specialist.
They're all board.
No, but he's got like 5 different. He's not just a pulmonologist. He does pulmonology, internal medicine, obesity, sleep disorders, and basically everything that I have.
Good.
So that was good. He's a little quacky, but I'm okay with that. If you could find a quacky way to make me better, I don't give a shit. If I have to drink goat's blood and
I'll stab the goat.
Dude, I'm open for it because I'm sick and tired of taking all this medicine all the time. But in any event, do you want to go through the rigmarole?
Yeah. So interesting development. Some good news, some bad news. So good news. Spotify has figured its shit out, and we are now up to date on Spotify. We also have a new website because I was bored this morning. So it is the razzledazzleshow.com. And that has links to all of our stuff, which are Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, podparadise.com. You can subscribe to us directly through the RSS feed if you want to. Google Play, we're everywhere all the time. The bad news is that podparadise.com is changing the way it does sponsorship, so we'll still be available on there, but we're going to stop mentioning them. So I think what they're doing, what they're changing is, before, if you just mention them in your stuff, they will promote you. Now they actually offer a hosting service, which the details of which are extremely reasonable. But they will only promote you if you subscribe to their hosting service. So yeah, whatever. Good for them. They provide a good service, and if their hosting is decent, I don't see any reason why not to. They're on the cheaper end. They're not quite as cheap as Simplecast, which is where we were at, but they offer stuff that Simplecast doesn't. So, and one of which is promotion. So anyway, we are in all those platforms. Find us, love us, like us, live us, insert yourself upon us.
Hit that bell icon.
Meow, 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 meow.
And with that.
You've been listening to Knife Party. I figured it out.
That's it.
All right, adios.
Okay, bye.